Hey guys, welcome to the behind the scenes annotation video for the Broken Tusk. What I'm going to do in this video is just sort of show you how I would have highlighted this story. And I'm not saying this is the absolute right way to do it because I am going to do it kind of off the cuff right now on the video. So I might miss stuff. You might have had different markings, and that is totally okay. The purpose of shared inquiry is so that you get the most out of the story. I'm not going to show you the first round of just asterisks and stuff because you person things you notice and questions that you have are kind of personal to you, and I can't really duplicate that for you. What I am going to show you are the FIDS markings because there are definite things that you should sort of find in this story. And obviously, this is like our first lesson doing this year, so I really want to like model for you what it should look like. So I'm going to go paragraph by paragraph, and I'm not going to read the paragraphs to you on this video. I'm just going to highlight, so it's going to be kind of a boring video where I'm just highlighting things and telling you things about it, but it's the best I can do when we're not in a classroom together. All right. And I'm going to use the proper highlighting colors in this video for FIDS. So if we were in class, we would use different colored highlighters to do this on paper, but since we are not, I'm going to just highlight with the features in Google. So this first sentence here, right here, I'm going to highlight this in pink, or as close to pink as I can get. Let's use this purple. Oops, I messed up already. We want to use the highlight. Here's the highlight color. I'm going to label that as a detail, and the detail that this is characterization and setting. It establishes who one of the characters in the story is and who he is. Vyasa is a poet, and it's in ancient times. Also, this right here, this is a good detail right here. Going to highlight that in the purple color, and I'm going to label this conflict. This is kind of the exposition of the conflict. Like, this is the beginning. He has a story that he has to recite. This right here, the verses will flow from my lips like nectar from a flower. I am going to highlight that in yellow. Oops, did it again. This is fun times, I know. And then this is figurative language. And this is a simile, right? It's comparing the verses and how they're going to come out of his mouth like nectar from a flower. And I'm going to infer that story is natural to him. I don't know how to explain that, but it just means that it's a story that sort of has to come out of him because it's flowing out like nectar from a flower. And you can see why this kind of markings is what you do like the second time you read the story because like you won't get this right away. Okay, right here. This I'm going to highlight again as a detail. And it would be nice if I would stop doing that. This is a detail. This is kind of the first problem in the story. And this, all right here, the words and rhythms tremble on my tongue. This is figurative language. Again, I did it. Oof. That's a personification. It personifies the story, it makes it human. This is more figurative language. I'm just going to highlight it in yellow. This whole section kind of implies that the story is like human. It's something that's living and breathing, and that's sort of important in the story. And then again, this is just a detail for conflict. This I'm going to highlight here. It's not something that was on your list, but I'm going to highlight it in orange. Oops, again. Because this is actually an example of some syntax, and it's kind of like a parallel structure. And I'm just sort of pointing it out because it's something that authors do, and it like creates a rhythm in the story that I think is important. And I think it's in this story that rhythm and that parallelism is kind of important to the sort of rhythm of these two people writing the story together, and it's just like a cool thing that the author does. And this right here, I think small ants building hills between his toes and creeping vines crawling up his body. It's actually two types. I'm going to highlight it in blue to show that it's imagery, but I'm also going to note that it's figurative language. The creeping vines is a personification. Okay. I would also highlight this as imagery. This right here, it's a beautiful sentence, by the way. This is, um, it's kind of imagery and figurative language. And I'm going to make an inference here, okay? Because the author's using a lot of imagery to draw attention to this part about the story hovering in the air and shimmering and its strength. It implies the power of the story. So the author is drawing so much attention to this moment to show the sort of strength and power of this story. And this right here is a detail. It's characterization for Ganesha. It's also kind of the next point in the conflict as well. And this is a good detail because it explains um, it explains what he wants people to get from the story. He wants people to learn from it, and that's kind of an important detail. This is imagery, some sound, cite and keep doing that. There's some sight and smell imagery. Here's some figurative language. That's a personification. Oops. Maybe by the end of this, I'll learn not to click that thing. Okay. All right. This next paragraph is an important detail because this establishes the bargain. All right, guys. That they come up with. And then here's the second half of their bargain. So you can highlight that. And you know what? My comments, like what I'm writing, is not great, but you get the idea. Okay. I'm going to highlight this as imagery. It's not great imagery, but it does have sound. Also kind of an important detail too. It's where they begin. And actually, this is part of it too. Okay, so this is an important detail. It tells the contents of the story. And then this is figurative language in that it's a kind of metaphor. Compares the story to a gift, precious gift. And then what we can infer about the story itself based on this figurative language is we can infer that the author believes that the story is very important. Valuable. It's a valuable story. I guess valuable would be a better word. I'm going to change that. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like just a detail about like what's happening in the story. Uh, this is figurative language and imagery. I'm going to highlight it for figurative language. We kind of need a marking here. This is what I'm going to do. This is my marking for figurative language and imagery. I'm going to make the writing blue. Okay, so it's a simile. And again, you notice that earlier in the story, the verses would flow like nectar, implying the sort of the naturalness of telling the story, and here we have that kind of imagery again. All right. Right here is a very important plot point. This is sort of the climax of the story. And we don't know what'll happen. Will he be able to move on? And this is imagery. And then right here you have some figurative language. It's a personification. There we go. This is sound imagery. More sound imagery. And this is an important detail here, that it is the Mahabharata, which is a very important text for the Hindu religion. And then again, I just want to point out the syntax here. You have that sort of, oops, I messed something up. You have that sort of parallel syntax here too. I'm just going to put it in orange, you don't have to. Okay. I'm going to highlight this as an important detail because I think this, I haven't guessed it, has a lot to do. It relates to kind of one of the themes of the story. Okay, so that is about how I would highlight this story. I think I have highlighted it better in the past, but you get the idea. Feel free to steal my markings, but I think you could even do a more thorough job than I have here, but this kind of gets the job done. One of the things I want to point out to you, since your exit ticket is going to be related to this, is that, the figurative language and the imagery in this story all sort of um, emphasize the importance of the story and the job that these two people, the bargain that they've come up with, and the importance of getting this story written for people to kind of look back at it. So you might want to keep that in mind. Um, so yeah, anyway, good luck. And make sure you annotate your story and hand it in.